by the local tourney and get matched with my dame. Just one more goat bounce and I've got the game. Then on her turn she plays Shift Donald Duck. Gosh, it seems that I've run out of luck.
Come on now, let's play some Lorcana. With such a sugar rush, it's a nirvana. We'll rip a booster pack or four, sharp food bites and roast a smorgasbord of Lord's Lorcana. All right. Wow, that sounds much better with the goats gone.
It's a lot quieter around here.
It's quieter in a good way. It's more peaceful.
It smells better, too.
Yes. The goats bring with them pros and cons.
A lot of pros, a lot of lore.
Yeah, yep.
They're quite cute.
They're very cute, yep.
They try really hard.
They're bouncy.
They can't sing.
No.
But they love to sing.
But it's cute. But I think we're better off without them.
We're better off
Yes.
with fewer goats around in the immediate vicinity, for podcasting purposes anyway.
Exactly. Welcome to Smorcana.
I'm Brett.
I'm Katie.
And we are a Lorcana/Disney/snack crossover podcast, going to try to fulfill all of our obligations to each of those three very important categories here today.
We are kind of right in the eye of Shimmering Skies. We're right in the middle of this set right now.
Yeah, are you playing any fun decks? Anything that you're really digging about Shimmering Skies so far?
Yeah, it's tough. We have a lot of great decks built right now. We have about 8 solid decks that we're really enjoying playing. And I'm kind of leaning towards Steel Song at this very moment in time. Still trying to taste all the flavors. Steel Song is one that I haven't really played before or focused on before, but I'm enjoying it. I'm trying to get into the groove of it a little bit. I really don't want to go back to something that I've played before. I don't want to go back to Ruby Amethyst. I don't really want to go back to an Amber Ruby deck. Yeah, I think Steel Song might be the one for me.
It has a lot of your favorite characters in it. It's got Rapunzel and Big Cinderella, and it's got some new things like Naveen.
Yeah, I love Naveen. Naveen's a lot of fun. He to me is a character that I really enjoy, and he does a thing that's really useful in a deck, and that is just a beautiful marriage. Sometimes it doesn't always happen in Lorcana. Sometimes the best card is a card that you're not necessarily attracted to. You're kind of like, I don't really care about Clarabelle, but sure, she does cool things. But Naveen is like a character that I know and like, and, have fun playing in the deck, and he does a rewarding thing.
It helps that deck is probably the strongest deck in the meta.
Yeah, it does. It helps when you win a bunch of games. That makes you like a deck more, for sure.
Incredibly powerful. It can just make those one-sided plays, the kind of plays that end a game as soon as they happen, really. Like, if you open up with a strong curve and then you're able to play Whole New World going first, it just secures such an advantage in terms of tempo, in terms of resources, in terms of characters on the board. It is super hard to come back from those kind of blowout plays. So definitely the highest ceiling in terms of power level, I think, of any deck in the game. So both thematic and fun and incredibly powerful.
Yeah, it's one that I want to stick with, that I really want to enjoy. So I'm just waiting to see if I pass over that threshold. But I'm still tasting a bunch of other things. In the meantime, we have a really cool hyper aggro deck that we built that I'm enjoying. What about you? What are you playing? What are you into right now?
I am trying to brew, trying to experiment, trying to find the secret sauce, always hunting for it. It's very hard to discover a deck that can withstand the onslaught of Steel Song and Ruby Sapphire, but I am really enjoying an Amber Ruby Princess deck at the moment. Yeah, it makes great use of Mulan and Lady Tremaine and some shift lines that are really fun. Queen Sensor Core is a really cool card. I like this color combo when you aren't using Mufasa, because there are lots of synergistic cards in the color combination that are not characters. So I'm really digging that at the moment.
Yeah, Queen Sensor Core is absolute dynamite. I mean, you've used that in every single game I think I've played against you with that deck. You just continue drawing it, and it continues being rewarding. I think it's a card that gets underestimated a lot in the meta.
Yeah, and I think it's one that as more queens and princesses are printed, it will continue to be powerful. It kind of attacks on two fronts, where you're getting that steady lore drip. You get a lore every turn if you have a princess or a queen in play. And then if you need to, you can use its secondary ability, see if you have a princess or queen on top of your deck and potentially draw it. So yeah, it helps in a number of ways. And, the deck that I'm playing right now, it's only slightly more than half princesses and queens, so you're not necessarily relying on that for your card draw. That's what Rapunzel is for. But it's still quite potent, and it can get you out of some card draw jams when Rapunzel isn't firing.
Yes, definitely. Now, we have a lot of decks built, but we also have a lot that we, haven't really explored too much.
Yeah, there's so many cards that I want to try and that we haven't tried yet. So I don't want to commit to a deck before I've explored a whole bunch, right? Like, I want to try a Genie deck. I want to try the Dwarf Knights. I want to try an Emerald Ruby Robin Hood deck, I want to try a bunch of hyenas. Let's explore a little bit, see what other kinds of weird combinations of cards we can put together.
It feels like with every single expansion, there are more and more and more deck ideas that keep coming out of the woodwork and more decks that keep, coming into the meta. So it feels like you can never really catch up to it, which is great. There's always more unexplored territory out there.
I mean, we haven't even tried one of the signature cards of the whole set, which is Mufasa.
I know!
We didn't have any Mufasas before last week.
Yeah, right. Now we have 3.
We went to League, and, in our League, you open 2 booster packs to contribute to your League card pool each week. So, we each opened 2 packs. We each got a Mufasa in our League packs, and then we traded for a Mufasa within our League cards. So we went from having no Mufasas to having 3. So now I really, really want to try some kind of cool Mufasa list. Yeah,
it was really great luck.
What else is happening in the world of Lorcana?
Oh, what isn't happening in the world of Lorcana? The Lorecast is coming up.
The 3rd Lorecast ever.
So exciting.
Yeah, is happening this week.
What are they going to talk about?
We'll probably get an announcement about Set 6. That's what we've seen in the last couple of Lorecasts. Maybe some other dynamic news about the future of the competitive scene and some events that we'll be seeing in the future. Maybe some news about more social events that we've seen hinted at. I'm really excited to see what comes out of it. I think that the last one, we had really, really high expectations. So my expectations aren't super high beyond just seeing a little bit of a sneak preview about Set 6.
Yeah, I feel very satiated with the game of Lorcana right now. There isn't a lot that I'm like, oh, it's not playable without blah. I hope they talk about blah. So similarly, I'm just excited to hear what they say is new or continuing.
And fortunately, you're not going to have to wait too long at all to hear about the next set, because that is going to be our exclusive main course for the evening. We have a really special surprise where we get to talk about the next Lorcana set.
Anything else before we get to our main course?
Really quickly, we've been wheeling and dealing a bit.
Yes, we have.
We sold our Disney Lorcana Challenge Cinderella and Rapunzel prize wall promos and our foil Cinderella playmat to some local metamates to help pay for our Seattle expenses.
Yeah, it's cool to have a DLC paying for us to go to a DLC.
It feels a little bit better than spending a whole bunch more money to go to another DLC out of pocket. Yeah, it's really hard to part with some really beautiful prizes. Like we love our Cinderella mat. We love these Rapunzel and Cinderella promos. But it helps that they're going to a local metamate.
Yeah, definitely. It makes it feel like, Lorcana is coming full circle. It's a circle of life. The circle of Lorcana.
Yeah, and it defrayed most of the cost of going to Seattle for our airfare and our lodging. So it was really helpful for us to kind of justify spending more disposable income on Lorcana. And then we made another deal this weekend.
Yeah, just a few hours ago, with a special guest we had visit our podcast studio, we were able to make an exciting trade for a Belle, strange but special, Enchanted.
That is your number 1 most coveted card in all of Lorcana.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Our number 1 podcast fan, Jimmy, has had that Enchanted Belle in his possession for a while. And we've had an Enchanted Simba in our possession for a while that he's wanted, and we've wanted the Belle. So we were finally able to noodle some other cards around and make it a fair trade today.
Yeah, we finally accumulated enough extras of meta staples to make this deal, to even it out.
Wonderful to have yet another beautiful Enchanted join our collection. We have been itching to pull another Enchanted on our own. So this was good to satiate us for the time being. It felt like we opened up an Enchanted today. But we keep crossing our fingers and knocking on wood the next time that we open a pack. It feels like it's been years.
Yeah, it's been a little while. I think we're pretty due.
I think we're due too. You know what else I think we're due for?
What's that?
Some food.
Let's
skip the appetizer. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, they have a special harvest feast prepared for tonight, so I'm thrilled, frankly.
Ooh!
Bonsoir, madame. Tonight we have a very special harvest feast for you. I bring you 20 ears of corn prepared in different ways, courtesy of a local farmer. Enjoy.
Wow, is it a local farmer? What is Francois talking about?
Oh, look! It's Superfan Jimmy!
Oh my god!
He's a farmer, that's right!
Yeah,
corn farmer! Hey, Superfan Jimmy, why don't you come join us?
Oh, hey, guys.
Hey, is this all from you?
You know what? It's all from me. I really can't resist spreading my favorite food wherever I can. Corn. Where you find corn, you find me.
And, you know, it's so fortuitous to see you here tonight because I understand that you have a special part to play in the next Lorcana expansion, that you did some work on it. Can you tell us about that?
That's right, yes. So I am a lifelong agricultural fanatic. It runs in my family all the way through, 4 or 5 generations. So that has been my passion throughout life. However, I've been blessed with uncanny ability to design many different games. And so I have begrudgingly at times consulted over the past decade on various different board games, card games, and I was very lucky to be able to be consulted on the next set for Lorcana. Growth of the Cornborn.
Wow!
That's the first we're hearing of this name. Wow! Can you give us a little elevator pitch? What is this going to be all about?
So, Growth of the Cornborn, probably not unexpected for fans of both Disney and of corn. This was a natural marriage. When I was approached, it made total sense to me. Corn is, in many ways, the Disney of agriculture.
Wow, I've never heard it put so succinctly, but, I think you're right. When you think about the pervasiveness in our culture, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's so true. When you think about seasonal favorites like corn mazes, but then also you find corn in almost everything you eat with high fructose corn syrup or things like corn on the cob, canned corn. It's really everywhere.
Now, this is really interesting. For the corn ignorant, can we talk about this? I'm a little bit embarrassed, actually. Could you tell us what corn is?
Of course. I never pass up a chance to talk about the really impressive history of corn. Corn goes back arguably as far as any food, and it is a unique grain in that it is produced by weight more than anything on the planet today. And also, if you go back in Mesoamerican history, was actually deified, which again, anyone who has eaten corn, they can completely understand why. So corn is probably the most versatile food, and it is my favorite to produce, agriculturally speaking.
And you've done a great job. I mean, we're looking at this huge plate of corn in front of us, and I have to say, it looks incredible. The different ways it has been prepared, the yellow, crisp color, it's beautiful. So congratulations on this year's harvest as well.
Thank you. It is, again, my favorite time of the year when I can share the bounty of corn with the world at large.
Yes, it's quite succulent corn that we're looking at here. If we can ask a personal question, what's your favorite form of corn?
I think my favorite form of corn, which again makes sense when you consider my shared love of Disney, is probably popped corn. Popcorn, known colloquially. And I was lucky enough when I was in high school to work part-time at a local movie theater, so I popped many a corn kernel in my day.
Now, there's an art to that as well, right?
There's absolutely an art to that. There is an art to how much you cook the corn and how kind of that smoky flavor you can achieve, the ratio of butter and salt. It really is a magical experience to achieve that perfect popped corn.
Now, can you tell us about how you came into contact with Ravensburger and the process of developing this expansion in conjunction with that team?
Absolutely. So my relationship with Ravensburger goes back many years, actually, because understandably, one of their favorite puzzle pieces is corn. When they think about food-themed puzzles, corn always the top of the list. The kids love it, the adults love it, and I can't blame them. So I've consulted, mostly from a visual standpoint, how to really capture visually the essence of corn. And so I actually had to turn away some requests. Over time, there was always this desire to bring corn more deeply into some crunchy mechanical games, and I finally was swayed by this most recent appeal to bring corn, mechanically speaking, into Lorcana. And the pitch was essentially, how can we really, from the ground up, revolutionize the gameplay core mechanics of Lorcana with a corn tinge, if you will?
It's really significant, I think, because there are all of these different IPs that we've been waiting to see in Disney, you know? For instance, last week we featured Lady and the Tramp, which is an IP that we haven't seen yet. And when I think about how monumental Corn's presence has been throughout Disney history, I mean, it's about time, frankly, right?
It really is. I think about some of my favorite moments in some of my favorite Disney movies. The Little Mermaid, the corn, right? I can't get enough of it. And so it's something that I've been plugged into more so the agricultural social media community, but there is some overlap with the card game community as well. And corn it always comes up. I'm getting a little sick of hearing about it, and now I'm finally happy to be able to put all of that rumor mongering to rest and bring corn into the world.
Let's get right into this. You actually, and I'm really thankful, you have brought some sneak peeks at the upcoming cards from Growth of the Cornborn here tonight, and this will be the world reveal of 5 Growth of the Cornborn cards. Wow, That's so
right.
Lucky.
That's right. And it really felt important to start with a large sampling so you can really see how versatile and impactful this Cornborn cycle will be for Lorcana, because mechanically speaking, there are certain new things that crop up in card games, and maybe you can ignore them, maybe you have your old favorites, but we really wanted to be sure that with Growth of the Cornborn, every single player will be intensely impacted by the corn-based mechanics, and they'll love it.
Wow, this is really going to shake up the meta, or should I say, pop up the meta.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
So we see the first card that you've brought with you today is from the first ever feature-length animated film, Snow White, a very classy choice.
Absolutely. We needed to start from the beginning, in the way that corn really does start from the beginning, among all foods, the father of all foods, some would say. And Snow White seemed the perfect choice to represent the corn mechanics and really ease the player into some of the newness.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and give the text to you a read. Is that all right?
Please do.
All right. So we're looking at Snow White, Corn Maze Witch. She is an amber character, 5 cost. She's inkable. She has 3 strength and 3 willpower, quests for 1. She is Cornborn, hero, and a princess. And she has the text, Pop 3. You may banish one of your characters named Snow White to play this character for 3 ink. We're going to come back to that because, boy, is that exciting. She also has the ability, Get Lost. When you play this character, you may banish chosen non-Cornborn character. And then there's some flavor text at the bottom.
And it says, eat your corn, Grumpy. Eat it or there will be consequences.
One of my favorite quotes from that movie. Now, let's dive right into this. Tell us about the pop mechanic.
So the pop mechanic is a really exciting mechanic, and again, the savvy Lorcana player will have noticed, even from as early into the game as its inception, the Floodborn mechanic, right? We were really seeding that early on that we wanted that to be the first step in the evolution of Lorcana characters, and as players have gotten used to shifting their characters when they're Floodborn, they will now get the opportunity to pop their characters into more powerful Cornborn versions of them. And Snow White really takes this to the next level. And again, amber, probably the most logical ink color for corn. It kind of captures that natural hue of corn in its most raw essence. And her Get Lost ability will really punish players for not having enough Cornborn characters on the field.
And I'm looking at the art here because, you know, throughout the history of Lorcana, we've always said that the art is just incredible. And seeing that this new corn-based twist on these classic characters really works, It's incredible. And the detail of having each kernel there, I'm really wowed.
I'm similarly wowed, and I remember having some of those early conversations with the stable of artists that Ravensburger is lucky enough to work with, and across the board, everyone was super thrilled to try their hand at the corn incarnations of these characters, because they really do capture the essence of Disney.
Wow, really beautiful art. You've brought several other cards with you today as well. I think we'll skip to Aladdin and Jasmine here. I'll read what this card does, if you don't mind. It's an 8-cost uninkable card. It is an emerald card. It is titled Aladdin and Jasmine, Corny in Love. It is a Cornborn hero, prince, and princess. A 3/3 that quests for 2. It has the ability Pop 6. You may banish one of your characters named Aladdin or Jasmine to play this character for 6 ink. And Cunning Silo Raid. When you play this character, each opponent loses 2 kernels. You may gain a kernel for each kernel lost this way.
And then there's the flavor text. If I were as rich as you, I could afford some really sweet corn. Wow. There is so much to unpack here. Obviously, an understated character, but a potentially powerful ability. Tell us about kernels.
Yes. So kernels is going to be a new twist on the game of Lorcana. Again, every Lorcana player is used to the main objective of the game. Reach 20 lore. You want to quest with your characters to obtain lore to advance the game. This Cornborn set will introduce a spin on that mechanic, and your objective will no longer be to accumulate lore. Your objective will be to accumulate corn kernels. And we see this here with Aladdin and Jasmine's Cunning Silo Raid. And so, corn kernels, again, as any fan of corn will understand, that is the corn at its most base essence, right? And those kernels can be used in different ways. They can be popped into popcorn, or they can be consumed as individual kernels, maybe like canned corn. And this is where we will expect, certainly for official events, players to provide their own kernels. And the baseline recommendation will be that you provide unpopped corn kernels, typically, available at any supermarket in a plastic container. Canned corn will also be allowed, but we just need to, be aware of keeping the cards clean.
Well, that's what sleeves are for, is what we always say.
It really is what sleeves are for. We don't want to infringe upon the creativity of each individual player to be able to use the type of corn that they relate to best.
And, we're seeing, this is the first time we've seen a team-up card in a while, right? So having Aladdin and Jasmine represented is that extra layer of Disney flair. And then to see them represented in the art here, these representations of Aladdin and Jasmine are actually comprised entirely of those kernels. So it's tying the art, the theme, and the gameplay all together in a really, really cohesive way.
We thought it was very important to include a team-up style character combination with this Cornborn set because, as we all know, the most enjoyable way to consume corn is together, with friends, with family, and we feel this card really captures that.
We're going to try to get these cards posted on our social media as soon as possible. Usually we wait a few days for, our dream cards, but this week we're going to get this art up there as soon as possible so you can all take it in. Just look at the husk that is woven into forming Aladdin's hair. Wonderful detailing.
Stunningly beautiful.
Let's move on to another card. Do you want to read this one yourself, Jimmy? Let's look at Gaston.
Absolutely. This is a personal favorite from this set. So Gaston is a 9-cost character, too tough to chew. He has 10 strength and 4 willpower, and has the Cornborn and Villain classifications, and he has Pop 5. You may banish one of your characters named Gaston to play this character for 5. The size of a barge is his ability. If you have 5 or more kernels, this character gains Ward and Resist +3, and quests for 2. And the flavor text, no one tills like Gaston, irrigates like Gaston, no one distributes water-soluble plant food like Gaston.
Wow, that's incredible. This is a strong card. It's the first villain we've seen so far in Cornborn, and also the first Ruby card.
That's right, and we found it important to integrate the corn mechanics across all ink colors, because while a personal favorite of mine is the amber, it reminds me of corn. Corn, again, as we've talked about, is the most versatile of foods and really does fit into the different ink mechanics of each ink.
Now, I'm a bit of a corn philistine, but I know that there are certain varieties of corn that have different colors even within a single ear. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct.
So it's wonderful to see you incorporate corn across the spectrum of colors, so no ink color will fall behind when Growth of the Cornborn releases.
Exactly. We found it very important because the risk, of course, when introducing a mechanic like the Cornborn mechanics is for power to just surge immediately and outstrip all cards that came out prior to the Cornborn set. So we felt it important to equally distribute those powerful cards across the ink colors.
And this is a classic Cornborn kernel payoff card, right? So we're seeing not just the rewards of having kernels themselves, which is intrinsic value to just have these kernels, but you also have the payoff of the more kernels you have, the more powerful your Cornborn characters become.
That's quite right. And again, we knew that as soon as we printed cards like these, power-hungry players would immediately gravitate to them and say, hey, I want this powerful card so I can dominate my opponents. But we felt it important to have payoff cards that would make the incentive for playing these corn mechanic cards one that transcended your desire to beat your opponent. You really want to have as much corn on the field of battle as possible.
And, just in terms of the thematic appeal, this reminds me of that classic Beauty and the Beast corn scene with Gaston.
Of course, one of my favorites. I rewatch it regularly when I'm feeling maybe a little bit down. It never fails to lift my spirits.
It's hysterical. It really is, that corn scene, but also beautiful.
Quite beautiful. Brings a tear to my eye.
Wow, now it seems it's going to be impossible to avoid these Cornborn cards going forward in Lorcana. They're going to come into every single part of this game, not just the characters either. We see you've brought an item card here today?
That's correct. Excalibur Sword of Corn is a 4-cost item card that has the ability Stalk of Destiny, where you exert this item and chosen Cornborn character gains Resist +2, Challenger +2, and Kernel +2 this turn. They get +2 strength while challenging, damage dealt to them is reduced by 2, and you gain 2 kernels when you challenge.
So, wow, this is incredible. We have another Cornborn payoff card. This will couple really, really well with all of your Cornborn characters. And then that seems like it's going to be a really powerful ability, that Kernel Plus ability. It's kind of similar to Challenger, but instead of just gaining strength, you're gaining kernels as soon as they challenge, almost like a Shere Khan effect.
Exactly. And again, it was very important that we not just include character cards in this set that integrate these corn mechanics. And of course, as everyone knows, corn can be a very dangerous weapon when used and wielded effectively. And so Excalibur seemed the perfect opportunity to implement that into the game.
I love the nod to the new legendary Arthur from the most recent set, where he gives characters Resist and Challenger when he enters play. So kind of tying Excalibur to that Arthur, I mean, that is very neat, very tidy.
That will be one of the first decks I build, is a steel deck that runs that Arthur plus this Excalibur card.
And why don't we get the flavor text here, Katie?
Arthur held the corn sword aloft, each golden kernel blinding like the sun. I mean, I remember that scene as well as I remember the back of my own hand. It's beautiful.
It was a bit of a departure from the T.H. White Once and Future King novel when Disney did decide to include that scene in the animated film, but I think it was a welcome inclusion.
I think it was really an improvement over the source material in that instance.
And so we have one more very special card to look at here. So we've seen that the Cornborn characters are going to be making their way to the game. We've seen items. Will there be any Growth of the Cornborn corn-themed song cards? Because we know there are so many corn-themed songs throughout Disney history.
It's true. And in fact, I made it a prerequisite for my involvement consulting on this set that there be at least a handful of extremely powerful, extremely impactful corn-related songs.
All right, so we're looking at Can You Feel the Love Tonight?
Yes, this is a 5-cost inkable action song. A character with cost 5 or more can exert to sing this song for free. It says, each opponent loses all kernels. You lose all kernels. You may throw a harvest celebration. Pause the game and eat a bunch of corn. Wow.
Wow, and the flavor text, the famous Elton John song lyrics, it's enough for this yellow ear farmerer that we got this corn.
It really does capture, again, one of my favorite corn-related moments in a movie in song form. And again, if you were reading and listening closely, that's all kernels being lost by both your opponent and yourself.
And the introduction of yet another new corn-related mechanic. Tell us about harvest celebrations.
So harvest celebrations are going to be probably the most significant shakeup to the Lorcana meta, and it's one that we've candidly had many long, in-depth conversations with the organized play team to understand how we best implement this in all forms of Lorcana. Because a harvest celebration involves pausing the game, wherever you are, whether you're at the start, midway, or near the end. And then you and your opponent need to eat a bunch of corn.
Wow, this is really going to shake up the meta.
Now, can this be any kind of corn? Does it need to be popped? Does it need to be fresh?
As I alluded to earlier, we will allow and encourage all players to bring their favorite type of corn that they feel speaks most to them, with the stipulation that you must bring all associated prerequisite infrastructure such as microwaves to pop your popcorn or some other form of implement. If you're going to bring ears of corn, you must shuck them in advance of your match so that once you see an effect like this, once there is a harvest celebration, you must start eating the corn immediately. No preamble.
It's wild to think that this is an Amber card, an Amber song that costs 5. I mean, we could be having harvest celebrations as early as turn 3. I'm thinking, Lantern on turn 2, Naveen on turn 3, and all of a sudden he's singing Can You Feel the Love Tonight? And you have a turn 3 harvest celebration.
And both for casual play, but of course for official play, the expectation is that the harvest celebration lasts until the end of that particular round of play. And in that instance, say you're 5 minutes into your match, that is potentially 45 plus minutes of corn consumption, and we couldn't be happier about it.
That's incredible. I mean, I can see back-to-back matches being quite exhausting if you're filled up with corn. That can be really trying on the mind.
It is, and it really will separate the good from the great, the amateur from the professional corn eaters. And we will encourage all players to practice in advance of these official tournaments to really hone those skills of pacing your corn consumption, making sure that you can eat different kinds of corn, find that corn that, whether it's popcorn, perhaps it's canned corn, that you really feel like captures your ability to play for a whole day, potentially.
I am just thrilled at the prospect of this mechanic being introduced to the game. As you know, we are a podcast that celebrates the intersection of Disney and Lorcana and also food. And so to see food incorporated into Lorcana in such an organic way, it's just absolutely thrilling for us in particular. I think we're going to get a lot of mileage talking about some of the theory crafting behind corn eating in Lorcana.
Absolutely. And I think that, as is evident by these preview cards we've shown, we knew that we couldn't do a small introduction with corn in Lorcana. We knew it needed to be game warping, game defining, and we really feel like we've done it.
Yeah, I think you've absolutely nailed it. The atmosphere in this restaurant right now is a buzz. As people hear about this, I think there's going to be an influx of new players to the game. Perhaps some of the folks who were interested in corn in the past and hadn't quite taken the plunge into Lorcana, but now are going to be persuaded to finally invest in the game.
Absolutely. We felt in the same way that Lorcana really did represent the kind of entry card game for maybe Disney fans, but people who hadn't played card games before. We felt the same way with corn. We know there's many people across the world that love corn, can't get enough of it, but maybe haven't played card games. And we feel like this is that opportunity to bridge that gap and invite them in with open arms.
Really brilliant timing on the release of this set as well, with the harvest happening in the real world right now, right? In North America where we are. How are things going on your farm?
Great. We're already starting preparations for our large corn maze, which every year it's one of my favorite ways that we use corn because, again, I love eating corn as much as the next person. But I also feel that there's majesty and beauty in corn, and the corn maze really is my favorite way to display that.
There's something sublime about being lost in corn, isn't there?
There really is. And I will sometimes find myself wandering into the corn maze on an afternoon and just letting the time go by and lose myself.
Now, you mentioned a corn cycle. Are we led to believe that there will be future incorporation of corn into Lorcana beyond the growth of the Cornborn set?
That is absolutely correct. And again, it was a contingency on my consulting for this set because, again, I knew that if we brought in fans of corn to play Lorcana, that is a permanent thing for them. And they will have an expectation that corn be an omnipresent component of the game, a key component of that game moving forward.
Yeah, I understand if you can't give away too many details, but it's just exciting to know that it will be a fixture in Lorcana for years to come.
Absolutely.
Wow, well, we're so honored that you chose to reveal all these cards on our podcast. It's really, we can't believe we got so lucky.
I never pass up a platform to speak about my true passion, which is corn.
And thank you once again for being such a supporter of the podcast. We really appreciate you listening in. Let's dig into this corn. What do you say? I can't wait anymore.
You won't have to ask me twice.
Hello again. I hope you have enjoyed at least a plurality of the many options of corn that we have presented for you tonight. As one final special treat, we have a large vat of popped corn that you may dive into a la Scrooge McDuck, and you may jump in at any moment.
Wow, thanks, Francois. Look at this thing.
Holy cow. That's a lot of popcorn.
Yeah, this is the size of like an above ground swimming pool.
Yeah, they have wheeled in a kind of like mega dunk tank that is now sitting in the restaurant, taking up a lot of space, and folks are diving right in there. Looks fun, I guess.
Yeah, I think we should hop in.
Yeah, let's dive on in.
Yeah. Hey, you know what all this popcorn reminds me of?
What?
The multifaceted history of popcorn at Disney parks.
Oh, is that something you want to share with us?
I'd love nothing more. Here are my notes. So popcorn is a staple in Disney parks. We've talked about this before, being the snack-themed podcast that we are. Brett, have you ever had popcorn in Disney World or Disneyland?
Absolutely, I have.
Of course. It's delicious. It's popcorn. It's a known fact that popcorn's delicious. It's not that popcorn is any more delicious in Disney World or Disneyland.
But there's something about walking down Main Street with a little box of popcorn and munching on that and looking around at all the sights and seeing all the characters and taking pictures and having a good time.
Oh, yeah, you can't help but eat it. There is apparently some famed lost picture of Walt Disney himself eating popcorn on Main Street, USA in 1955 in Disneyland Park. Now, dear listener, I did my research, but I could not get my hands on that picture. I bet it is somewhere backstage at Disneyland Park, somewhere. But anyways, it's been around since Disneyland has been around, which is a while, almost 70 years now. So here's a little bit of the history, the experiences that you will get when you go to eat popcorn in Disneyland. They come in many different flavors now. They've got buffalo chicken flavors. They've got fruity flavors like Fruity Pebbles. You can buy caramel popcorn at Caramel Kuchen.
A classic.
Yep, in Epcot. It's delicious. We've gotten that before. It's like covered in real caramel.
You can watch them drizzle caramel over your popcorn.
Mm-hmm. You can get pre-bagged popcorn at all kinds of merchandise stores, along with like little bagged candies and bagged snacks. You can get one of those in-room gift baskets at Disney parks that's just bags and bags and bags of Disney popcorn.
Popcorn is one of the snacks that is featured on your new Disney snack bucket hat.
Oh yeah, popcorn's all over the merch. It's a staple. It's part of what makes Disney Disney. There are several different popcorn stands in Disneyland specifically that are true works of art. So there are lots of popcorn stands, obviously, in other Disney parks. Tokyo Disney, in Shanghai, in Disney World. Wherever you go to a Disney park, they're going to have popcorn. But specifically in Disneyland, they have these very cute little creatures inside of their popcorn carts that are called Roasty Toasties.
Roasty Toasties?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of creatures? Like live creatures?
No, little dolls.
Okay.
Inside the popcorn machines. So, like everything in Disney parks, right? These popcorn carts are super themed to the land that they're in. So, inside of this clear popcorn cart, there's a little doll, a little animatronic, that's holding on to a little canister of popcorn and spinning it around like it's making the popcorn itself. So, in Frontierland, it's a tiny little Davy Crockett. On Main Street, USA, it's a tiny little Dapper Dan.
That's so cute.
In Fantasyland, it's a little Yeti from the Matterhorn. Right by the castle, it's a little clown.
What?
A little spooky.
Wait,
He's a little clown.
I was so on board, and then you said the word clown.
It's cute.
Because you know what I don't associate with the splendor of the castle at the center of Disneyland? Is a clown.
Clown, yeah.
I think that's the worst choice. The worst choice.
Well, it's slightly off-putting. It's supposed to be retro, like it's the 1900s, like Main Street USA, like it's an old-fashioned clown.
People weren't scared of clowns back then the way they are now.
Yeah.
I'm terrified of clowns. I've read It. It's scary. Clowns.
Yeah, but this isn't it.
I'm just saying, by association, I would replace that with pretty much anything else.
Well, good news for you. You can go to any of these other popcorn stands.
Tell me about those.
You could go to Tomorrowland, see Rosie the astronaut, a female astronaut. You love to see it. Good job, Disneyland. You could go to Toontown and see Sam the conductor, a little train conductor. You could go to the popcorn stand outside of the Haunted Mansion, which is normally an undertaker.
Okay, that makes sense.
You don't think that's scarier than a clown?
Absolutely not. Undertakers are doing an important job. They fulfill a role in society. Clowns are nightmare fuel.
Yeah, okay.
Pure terror.
Okay, just wait till you see what this Undertaker looks like, because he's spooky. But at Halloween times, they change it to be Oogie Boogie.
Perfect.
Who I know you're very scared of.
I'm scared of Oogie Boogie,
So that's scarier than a clown, too.
I think Oogie Boogie's horrifying.
Worse than a clown?
No.
Only time will tell. I guess we have to go back.
Oogie Boogie is deliberate, where clowns are uncanny. Clowns are unexpected. I feel like they hide the truth.
Clowns are deliberate. They're clowns. That's what they're deliberate about.
I don't know. I feel like when they set out to make the clown, they didn't say, let's make the freakiest thing we possibly can and give everybody the willies, but like they did with Oogie Boogie. With the clown, they're like, we'll just make an innocent clown. It'll just be in the sewer. It'll be in the sewer and talk to your children.
In the sewer.
In the sewer. There's nothing wrong with that. And then it eats them. So
All right. This isn't about clowns. We're going to scare everybody.
Okay.
I agree. You don't have to go to the clown one. If you're trying to avoid the clown, don't go to the Main Street USA Castle Hub popcorn cart.
PSA.
But also it's cute and it's not that scary. Okay, the last cute roasty toasty is in Pixar Pier in California Adventure, and it's Duke Kaboom.
Sweet. A perfect choice.
Yeah, we love Duke Kaboom. They sell a lot of popcorn at Disneyland and Disney World. This could be due in part to the cute roasty toasties who are rolling it out for you. I mean, you look at them and you're like, well, I gotta buy popcorn now.
The roasty toasty is working real hard. I want to support their craft.
Of course you do. Now, we know the difference in size between Disneyland and Walt Disney World. Which one do you think sells more pounds of popcorn per year? This is pounds. Now remember, popcorn is not heavy, so pounds of popcorn.
I would guess that Disney World sells 3 to 4 times as much popcorn as Disneyland.
That's what you'd think. But it's actually the opposite.
What?
Disneyland sells 500,000 pounds of popcorn every year. 500,000 pounds. And
Wow.
Disney World only sells 385,000 pounds.
Is that all?
That's all. That's all. Just 385,000 pounds.
Wow, that is very surprising. I mean, Disney World is so much larger than Disneyland, in terms of both square footage and in terms of folks visiting, in terms of population.
It's surprising, but when you think of what popcorn does, it starts to make more sense, right? If you're in Disney World, you're typically there for a longer vacation, and you're typically there to eat more sit-down meals or full meals. You're not just there for an afternoon, right? People who visit Disneyland typically are only there for the day. So they've had breakfast at home, they have dinner at home. They're only there for lunch, maybe. Typically people at Disneyland get to the park after lunch. So they're just looking for a little snack in the middle of the day, and that's popcorn.
That makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, right? So perhaps it's because of the roasty toasties. Perhaps it's because they're just snacking around in the middle of the day. But there's another reason that people buy a lot of popcorn.
Okay.
The reason is called a smellitzer. The smellitzer is smell that is funneled out into the park to make people more inclined to eat things and buy things.
Smell-o-vision.
Yeah, exactly. The most famous one, and I guess the only really documented one, is coming out of the Main Street Bakery. It's just smells of sweets and good things. And, it's that same kind of logic of when someone is trying to sell a house and they bake cookies inside the house so that when you go to see it, it smells nice.
That's really cool. And I mean, leave it to Disney to be on the forefront of influencing atmosphere,
Always.
I've thought there might be another reason. Maybe people's teeth in California are farther apart.
It's possible.
You know, like, I think one of the only downsides of eating popcorn is that it can get stuck in your teeth, right? And so maybe in California, folks are more likely to have teeth that are farther apart and therefore are less likely to have kernels get stuck in them.
You're making really strong points, and we should look it up. We should have a dentist on the next episode.
This could be a case of correlation versus causation, too, that maybe people in California eat more popcorn and therefore they force their teeth farther apart from each other. Anyway.
Yep. Anyways, one more popcorn fact for you to know about popcorn in Disney parks is all about the popcorn buckets.
Ah, yes.
Now, the popcorn buckets are a brilliant tool. You can buy a souvenir bucket, a plastic bucket for your popcorn. It has a lid, which means you can bring it on rides. It has a little handle, which means you can loop it into your backpack. You could hold it like a purse. It costs usually, these are the current costs for it, for a classic souvenir bucket, $13 with unlimited refills for only $2.25 throughout your trip. Now, this is like a large movie theater popcorn. Pretty good deal. If you're going to Disneyland or Disney World for like 8 days and you want to just keep on having a snack in the park, it's only $2. That's like unheard of in Disneyland.
At Disney, getting a snack for $2 is insane value.
Yeah, pretty nice. If you're snacky, if you got a whole family that's going to want to snack on the popcorn, it's awesome.
How much does a normal box of popcorn cost?
Normally, it's only $5.50. Also a pretty good bargain.
Okay, so napkin math tells me that you're saving $3 on every box of popcorn, which means that if you get 4 refills, you're about breaking even. And then every refill thereafter, it's all just gravy.
Right, and you get to take home the souvenir bucket.
Oh, yeah, right. And so what are these souvenir buckets like? What are they?
Crazy. So they're plastic bins, but they make different specialty popcorn buckets for special occasions and holidays. They'll have Mickey balloon-shaped ones. Mickey Mouse and a candy corn, I think, was last year's Halloween popcorn bucket. The most famous popcorn bucket that has ever been was the Figment popcorn bucket in 2022 that they released in Epcot for the Festival of the Arts.
Figment being the purple dragon from the Imagination Pavilion in Epcot?
Yes. A cult favorite, Figment. And not a lot of people like Figment. I think it's that he's so weird and it's like a cult classic kind of thing.
Sure, yeah. So what happened with this popcorn bucket?
So people waited in line for up to 5 hours when this was released.
They waited 5 hours for a plastic tub that represents Figment?
Yeah, so they bought a ticket to Epcot and then spent 5 hours in line for a plastic bucket of Figment.
And this is why the high prices on certain collectible Lorcana cards will never amaze me, because there are some fanatical people when it comes to collecting Disney things.
Boy, oh boy. Okay, so I looked this up. I looked up the Figment popcorn bucket from 2022 on eBay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we saw that originally it's $13. For something that's specialty, maybe it was, I don't know, $18, right, to get it, or $22. Nothing too insane. Do you know how much it's going for right now on eBay?
Like $20.
Nope.
Higher?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it might be one of those things where, like, because there was such a craze, everybody got one, and now, like, there's no demand for it.
I thought that too. I was a little bit worried about it.
Okay, then like $100?
More.
What?
Yep.
$200.
Well, no, less than that.
Oh, okay.
It's going for. It's currently going for $129.
Wow.
Yeah, for a bucket.
1,000% return.
Yeah, honestly, I guess that's why people waited for 5 hours, but it seems pretty crazy. And I'm sure 2 years ago, when no one could get their hands on it and they were selling out like crazy, you could have sold that on eBay for like $500.
Wow. Figment to me is not one that resonates at all. Like, goodness. That ride, Figment's Journey into Imagination, I think that's the worst Disney ride in any park that I've ever seen.
Yeah, Journey into Imagination is real tough. It never has a wait. So, dear listener, next time you're in Disney World, you can go and check it out for sure. Just for the, your own edification, I guess. It's not great. It's filled with stinky smells, like on purpose, and it's really disorienting. And Eric Idle's face is like huge in a moon at the end of it.
It's like an inverse Smellitzer.
Yeah.
They instead of piping good smells in to make you want to be there, they're piping bad smells in and thinking that's going to what? Like Maybe hope you won't notice ever come back to the ride. So that's the power of a popcorn bucket, though.
That's the power of popcorn.
It can turn an IP that nobody really cares about or likes and turn it into a craze.
Yeah, exactly.
The power of corn.
And I've got to say, this big bucket of popcorn that we're currently swimming in is majestic.
It really is. It's been a special evening celebrating the harvest here.
Yeah, very corntastic.
What's next on the menu? Decidedly less corn, I should think, next week.
Indeed. So next week, we will have had the Lorecast about what's happening in set 6 of Lorcana. So we'll learn more about that in the Lorecast. We're excited to share with you what we get from that.
And we have a few exciting interviews planned for the near future. We can't reveal all of the details yet, but they are going to be scrumptious.
Scrum-diddly-umptious.
While you wait for those, you can always follow us on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, or send us an email, smorcana@gmail.com.
And ladies and gentlemen, until next time, get to poppin' and keep on snacking.